Brady Quinn, Fox Sports College and NFL studio and game analyst, and he's on Fox Sports Radio. Two pros and a cup of Joe. Two pros and a cup of Joe. LeVar Arrington, Brady Quinn, the pros, and Jonas Knox is your Joe. You can catch them on Fox Sports Radio weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, which leads right into this award-nominated program. Brady, good morning. Good to have you back here. Do you have a movie or a show that you think is not good, but everybody else thinks is good?
Friends.
Ooh.
Friends would be that show for me. Yeah, that's going to be an unpopular opinion amongst a lot of people. And look, David Schwimmer is a tremendous actor. I just could not stand Ross. I couldn't stand the character at all. I liked basically every other character, but that particular character just ruined the entire show for me. I hated the whining, just the entire personality of Ross, which really is just a credit to David Schwimmer for the way he was as an actor in that one.
Did you ever meet him?
I've never met him, no.
What would you say to David Schwimmer if you did meet him?
I would say you are one tremendous actor.
And I
I'd leave it
hated you.
at that. I mean,
you wouldn't add that. Okay. Yeah.
He invoked hate that I had for a character that he played, which is strong, right? Like love and hate. Those are the two things you're trying to draw from people. He invoked hate out of my heart for a fictitious character. I don't know. Maybe it was based on someone, but he was that good of an actor that's how it made me feel watching that show. I could not watch it. I couldn't
get too deep into it. I just watched because, Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox were good looking. Like that was it. Like very surface.
I mean,
that I didn't, dive into the plot or any of that stuff. It's basically just, those are two beautiful women. That's it.
Yeah, that, and I think the humor, right? The humor of Joey, his character was great. Matthew Perry's character was great. Like there was a lot of humor to it at times, but as soon as Ross came into the picture, I was out. I was just, I was kind of done with that episode.
That's all I needed to know from you, Brady. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Talk to you guys next week.
You're in Iowa City. You're in your hotel room in Iowa City.
I am. I'm at well, I shouldn't say
no, you should don't. and I'm in room. No, don't do that. Don't do that. What was the worst road trip you ever had when you were at Notre Dame or with the Cleveland Browns?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Fans heckle, pull the fire alarm.
Oh, well, if that's college fans, there was two things that distinctly stick out to me. Going to East Lansing. I mean, when they moon you, it's like a different type of moon. Like they show too much when they moon you on the way in. All right. So Michigan State fans were the worst.
Wait. Do you see the moon and the stars when it happens?
They spread the cheeks. I'll just put it that way. That was always really rough. Going
Wait a minute. Hold on. So Georgia's between the hedges. This feels like Michigan State is. So when you are on the team bus pulling into the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. There's multiple people doing it. It's not like one. It's not like, we saw one person. It was multiple. And you're just going, oh my God, that is so gross. It really does. Like it takes you about 5 to 10 minutes to realize you got to go play a football game. I got to get my mind off whatever that horrific thing was I just saw. So East Lansing, I give Michigan State right up there. I was scarred from that. And then going out to the old O.Co in Oakland, I'll never forget hearing as I get off the bus, and I was early on in my career. I remember hearing this voice yell out some profanities, and I was like so shocked because it was such a high-pitched voice. It sounded like a really young kid. And I turn around, this kid couldn't have been older than 7, and he's giving me the bird. And I hadn't even played yet or done anything really. And I was like, this kid knows my name. He's yelling out all these obscenities at this point in time, and he's 7 years old. I was like, that's Raider Nation. I obviously was like, where's this kid's parents? Like, what's this kid going to be in the future? But at the same time, I was like, all right, I got some respect. Like, that's Raider Nation. Like, that's the black hole. That's what we're getting ready to go into and have to face.
Well, the Browns weren't good enough to really be hated, but Notre Dame was always, wherever you went with Notre Dame, that fans hated you. Cleveland wasn't at a level where they looked at you like, oh, we got to worry about them.
That hasn't changed though, Dan. I mean, we're still hated. I'm still hated. I mean, it's either there's like the Notre Dame fans who love me or hate me. I mean, 51% of the people right now probably hate me for some reason or other because I'm associated with Notre Dame. I realized that when I signed up for it. I didn't know it'd be this bad, but that's pretty much what my life has been. Even my wife, I think, might be on that 51%, depending on the day.
You should have gone to Ohio State.
I mean, honestly, I don't admit this very often. I almost went to Michigan. Like, Michigan was the place that I loved. Scott Leffler at the time was their quarterback coach, OC. We had a great rapport, academically a strong school. And, you just looked at the track record. Like, I loved Tom Brady growing up. Junior high, high school, like, that was the guy I idolized. And he's still playing, still idolizing him. But there was like,
but isn't that crazy, like, Brady, that Tom is still playing and you wanted to follow in his footsteps at Michigan?
Yeah. I mean, I remember like watching the way he played, his body style, type of player he was. I ended up getting his offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss, at Notre Dame, like later on. So that never really changed, and that was the cool thing about it. I mean, it's just, I mean, what he's doing is ridiculous, but he was a reason. He would have been the reason why a kid out of Columbus, Ohio would have shunned Ohio State to go to Michigan. Like, he was a big piece of all that.
Well, it would have been worse if being from Columbus, you'd have gone to Michigan instead of gone to Notre Dame.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll never forget the conversation I had with Bo Schembechler. My dad and I had gone up for a visit, and he just, as soon as he heard I was from Columbus, Ohio, he came over to me, he shook my hand, and he goes, "Are you ready to go into Columbus and kick their ass?" And my dad was like, where can we sign? Where do we commit to all this? I was like, well, this is cool, but let's pump the brakes on this.
He's Brady Quinn. You can see him on TV. You can hear him on radio. Two Bros and a Cup of Joe. It's the morning show on Fox Sports Radio that precedes this one with LeVar Arrington and the host Jonas Knox. He is in Iowa City, Iowa versus Penn State. This should be a big game. It doesn't feel like a big game nationally. Why is that?
I don't know, because it does here. I mean, on the travel on the way in, a ton of Hawkeye fans, obviously, coming to support their team. A ton of Penn State fans as well traveling for it. I think maybe because there's a little bit of a sense of there's Alabama and Georgia, and then everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've seen those two teams this year pretty dominant. And we feel like the Big Ten, which is probably the second closest conference to the SEC, isn't quite there. But I don't know. I mean, we've got a lot of football left to be played. I'm excited for this matchup, and I'm really curious to see how close a Penn State or Iowa would be versus one of those two teams. I mean, look, I'm not naive enough to sit there and think that Alabama or Georgia would be heavy favorites versus both. But I'd still like to see that matchup. I'd still like to see those teams play off and see where they'd be at this point.
I watched the Georgia front four. I mean, that to me is NFL quality. I watched the Arkansas game, and I felt bad for Arkansas. Whenever those running backs were going to get the ball, and I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well. That's really, I don't know how good Georgia is. I just know that front is as good as we've seen in a little while. What do you think?
I remember we got kicked out of a travel football league. I think we're using Stickum when we were like in 5th grade. And so in 6th grade, we had to find a new league. Well, we played up with 7th and 8th graders. And the thing you don't take into account at that age, Dan, is those kids are starting to hit puberty. And I remember the first time we went out and played against, I think it was a Gahanna team there in Ohio. They look like grown men. And that's what it feels like essentially when every team goes up against Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at that front and you go, they just look different. I mean, they are massive. They obviously all have, their future is playing in the NFL. But even more so than that, just the way they move to the ball, the way they're coached with Kirby Smart and their scheme, because that's what gets overlooked is they're also out scheming teams. It's not just pure talent and strength and ability. And so that's why I think everyone's looking for that SEC championship game to see, what comes out of that. And much like last year where you had Clemson win the ACC, Notre Dame loses in the ACC, but they both end up still getting in. I think you're going to see that play out. Like, I think it's a safe bet to say, since neither Georgia or Alabama have to face each other in the regular season, they're going to score off in the SEC championship game. The loser's still going to get in as the 4th seed, and the winner's obviously going to be the number 1 seed. Or maybe they'll try to finagle it where they don't have a rematch the following week. because that would be the interesting thing about it, right?
Yeah.
Is do you want to see him 2 weeks in a row? I don't even think the SEC obviously wants to see that. I think they'd rather see a rematch in the national championship game.
I know you're from Columbus. I know you live in Florida, but you probably know a lot of the people in that area, what happened with Urban Meyer and how you think this plays out with him. As a pro, would you care about your coach as opposed to if you were in college, you're a little bit more beholden to that coach. Like he holds your future in his hands. As a pro, you're like, hey, coaches come and go. We come and go. It's not as big a deal. How does this play out with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville?
I hate for saying it this way. It all depends on whether or not they win. If they win this week and the next week, I mean, I've through my career was through a lot of different things. And if you won, it made all of it go away. I mean, really, it did. Like I remember we had a tragic incident in Kansas City. A player took his life the day before the game. We ended up playing that next day. We won. And it was almost like that went away. And it was like we moved on. Like the NFL machine just moved on. Yeah. And I remember thinking as like a player and having to go to the funeral the following week and all the emotions that come along with that with our players and our team and think to myself, this isn't right. Now, that's a completely tragic, different event. But it's that still applies in the NFL to anything that happens off the field. Is if you win, that all ends up getting kind of pushed to the wayside as an afterthought. I mean, if they were a 3-1, 4-0 football team right now, I mean, would we be having the same conversation about what came out on video? Probably not. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's just the reality of life in the NFL. You're judged differently whether you're winning or losing. And that's why I think it's so key for the players, especially the young players in that locker room, to take over accountability of what happens the next few weeks and how they win or lose these games.
Russell Wilson got hurt last night. I don't know what the diagnosis is, if it's dislocated or fractured, but did you ever go through this with something on your passing hand?
Yeah, Monday Night Football 2008. I hit my right index finger off of Marcus Stroud's helmet and ended up having what was called a mallet finger. Didn't know it at the time. It was honestly so cold in Buffalo. I thought I just stoved it. I was trying to get it to warm up. I mean, my hands felt pretty much frozen. And I really didn't realize it until we got into practice the following week. Had blood underneath my nail. We tried to drill through the nail to see if we could release the blood and release some of the pressure. I think at one point we drilled past that point, but it wasn't until after practice where we ended up going to get an MRI and x-rays taken. It was a small fracture. The tendons and the ligaments there were kind of torn up at that distal joint. And I tried to play the next week, but the hard thing is you have to understand if it's his middle finger, your index finger and your middle finger, those are really the last two fingers to push the football. So that's going to control not only some of the power coming off of it, but also your accuracy and the way it's going to spin off your fingers. The index is the last. And that's why I tried to go, didn't have any control of Houston that next week, ended up having to have 2 pins put in, and it was casted for 6 weeks. So it could heal, which it probably didn't heal properly because I tried to play the next week. So my finger's a little crooked now for the rest of my life. But it took 6 weeks for it to heal. That's why I'm a little surprised. Maybe if it's a sprain, he'll be okay. But if he's torn something or if there's a fracture, I mean, there's no way to put a pin in there and really let it heal, especially with all the trauma you're going to take throwing the football and taking even snaps or getting hit and shotgun and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Where do you stand on Baker Mayfield as a franchise quarterback if you're the Browns moving forward? You going to pony up $40-45 million a year?
Yeah, to me, I think he's a franchise quarterback. I do. I know everyone's making a big deal about the statistical arguments and everything else, but I think he can put them in a position to go on a playoff run and win a Super Bowl. Now, is he the same player as Patrick Mahomes and some of the others or Kyler Murray? No, he's different in that sense. But I do think he's got all those traits and ability to be able to lead them to one. The biggest thing right now is, from a contract standpoint, the hard thing is it's going to be hard to compare him to a Patrick Mahomes, for example, because the style of that deal, it's going to have to be closer to a Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. And, if you're going to use stats to make that argument, yeah, it's probably not going to bode well. But I think you and I both know that's not how it works in the NFL. It's the next man up. It's not necessarily the guy that's going to say, hey, is Baker or Dak or Josh Allen better than Patrick Mahomes? I don't think so. But they might end up getting paid more than him certain years or at certain points in time throughout their contract extensions. So That's more of the reality. It's an economical deal. It's not so much about stats or what we think of him as compared to another player.
Yeah, but I think it puts these GMs in a really difficult position because if you said I could have Baker Mayfield for $30 million a year as opposed to 45, like there's no middle ground here. And that's what concerns me as we move forward. You know, at some point you go, there's a ceiling here. There should be a ceiling here. I'm for everybody making all the money they want. But I don't believe a gun should be put to my head as a GM or owner and say, hey, that's what the going rate. No, it's not. It shouldn't be. Baker Mayfield is not the going rate. Baker Mayfield is not Deshaun Watson. He's not Mahomes. He's not a variety. He's not a top 15 quarterback. Just because.
Don't you think Don't you think the franchise tag, though, which was originally created by the ownership side, right?
I know.
That's what's gotten them in this situation because as every player gets closer to free agency, their agents start saying, hey, well, this is what the first year of the tag looks like. This is what the second year of the tag looks like. If I have 1 year left on my deal, whatever you present me as far as guarantees, it better look like this year plus those 2 years in guarantees. If it's not, why would I accept anything? So I actually think the mechanism that they created to keep franchise quarterbacks, agents and players have now used it back against them from a negotiation tactic. And if you look at Kirk Cousins, I mean, if you play that thing out, I mean, there's a risk to it. You got to play year to year. Look at Dak Prescott. You know, he was able to do that too. There's definitely a risk to it. But at the end of the day, you're going to make out more in the end. So I know that the owners want the franchise tag in there. I think players don't. But I think that plays into this argument a little bit as to why every single player makes that argument, because now you're basing some of those numbers off of the top 5 average of those quarterback contracts.
All right, big game, Fox. It'll be big noon kickoff at Penn State and Iowa from Iowa City. What's on the agenda tonight? You got a workout in store? I'm going to guess.
I already got one in.
Oh, you did?
Already got one in. Yeah, I got to. Come on now. Come on, Dan. You know me. I was down there with Joel Klatt. We were getting after it a little bit. But we already did radio this morning. I already got a workout in.
Wait, what are you benching now?
Oh, God. I don't even try to do – you know what? I take that back. I usually put up 300 pounds once a week just to feel like I can still do it. So I'll do like a 1 rep, 300 pounds, be done with it, maybe 315 and say, all right, I did it. I'll move on. But I don't try to like do too much more than that anymore. It still makes me feel good. Like I can still get that done. Plus I have 3 daughters, Dan. So at some point I'm going to have to get on some performance enhancing drugs to make sure I protect those 3 little munchkins I got at my house right now.
Do you wear a medium or do you wear a large shirt?
This is actually a double XL, Dan. I know what you're trying to say. All right. I know what you're trying to get at. This is actually a double XL.
I don't know. I don't know. Like
it's more of what they call a European cut. I know you're unfamiliar with that. All right, I know you're unfamiliar with traveling overseas.
Yeah,
it's more of a European cut. Okay.
All right. Just want to.
We'll get you some.
No.
It's called State and Liberty. We'll get you some.
I like loose. Clothes. I like loose. I like leaving something to the imagination.
Well, I mean, I guess there's that play if you want to play things that way. I mean, I think you could. I mean, I'm not really sure what you're trying to say there, to be honest with you, Dan.
I'm just. I don't know what I'm trying to say either. I can't wear a tight shirt. I think is what I'm saying there, Brady.
Well, you got to start coming and working out with us.
No.
Yeah, come on, we'll figure this out.
No, you and
we'll
Klatt,
get Fritzy and the boys.
No, you and Klatt. Then you act like former quarterbacks. You know,
no, Klatt was having we were having a heart-to-heart about it. He's really at a bad place right now with his workout. So I was trying to pump him up a little bit and trying to get him going, but he was in a bad place this morning. So a big pep talk. Do
you think it'll affect Joel Klatt on the call that he's in a bad place working out wise?
Well, he works out before the game because I usually see him down there, working out before he goes and gets the call in. We'll see where his head's at tomorrow. Today wasn't a good place. It was not a good place, but I think he'll be better tomorrow.
I'm just working on core, Brady. That's all I'm working on.
Yeah, you got to, right? You gotta get that 6-pack. I would say for you though, calves, core, and then just arms. That's all you need to be doing at this point.
That's it. Yeah.
Calves, core, yeah. Because you go out, you probably golf a little bit. You put on a t-shirt and short. You got to look good. The Phil Mickelson workout. That's essentially what he does now. Calves,
core, and arms.
Yeah, a little bit of arms.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we had you on for that reason alone right there.
I think we accomplished a lot.
Yeah, we did. I think we did. Think we did.
A lot of topics there.
Yeah. Well, you know the show. Have fun tomorrow. We appreciate your time as always, Brady. Thank you, buddy. That's Brady Quinn, Fox Sports College NFL studio game analyst, and the radio show that precedes ours.